Alright, in today's video I'm showing you why you need to stop trying to create attraction, because you have to understand this. You either are or you aren't. I'm going to say that one more time. You either are or you aren't. Okay, this is what you have to understand. Attraction is not something that you can talk your way into. Okay, there's a lot of guys who think that they can talk their way into being attractive, or if I talk to her long enough, she's going to like me. You need to stop trying to create attraction, because this is the problem. Men think that there is something that you can say, okay, intentionally, or there's something that you can say to make her like you. Men think that there is something that they can say initially to make her like you, okay, and you can't. And here's why. Mother Nature, here's what you have to understand. Mother Nature, or God, or the universe, takes care of the attraction for you, okay? Which means that this is something that just happens, right? Like if I put a very attractive woman in front of you that you like, there's nothing she can say or not say to make her less attractive because you like her. Okay, so this is what you have to understand. Mother Nature takes care of the attraction for you. So you either are or you aren't to that woman. Now, are you going to be everybody's cup of tea? Are you going to be everybody's type? Absolutely not. But this is what you have to understand. You either are or you aren't. You either are attractive or you're not attractive. So things that make you attractive, or the things that make you you, would be things like how you look, okay, how tall you are, okay, your hygiene, okay, your vocal tone, and your overall aesthetics. This is going to make up who you are. Okay, just like me. Like, for example, take my vocal tone, my mannerisms, my delivery when I speak. That is me, right? It's something that I can't control. This is just me. And when you watch my videos, you either like me or you don't. But this is not something that I can just change, okay? So there's nothing that you can say or nothing that you can do to like change a woman's mind so that way she thinks you're more attractive. So attraction is your overall being. And before we get to this point, we have to understand this one thing, okay? I'm going to swap over to this column for a second. You need to understand this. Women optimize hypergamy for what is missing, okay? What that means is women do not need men today for any of the things that you think that they do, okay? Women do not need men today to provide for them. Women do not need men today for resources. Women do not need men today for security of resources or anything long term. Well, why would that be? Well, the thing is like, if I look at all of the women that I've dated over the past few years, they all have their own jobs, they all have their own houses, and they all have their own money. Okay? So what is it that they're actually optimizing for? What is it that they're optimizing for? What is it that they're looking for? They are looking for hot men. They're looking for men that they find attractive. Now, this is why when they say things like, when women will say, you know, I like being independent, or I want to be independent so I have my own money and my own resources. Well, what does that mean? That means they want to be independent of men that they are not attracted to, but men that they would otherwise be with for long-term security of resources. What she is saying is she's saying, I want to have my own resources so that way I can just be with the men that I am attracted to. And that's why what you're going to see later on in this presentation is this whole idea of a traditional woman. When guys are like, oh, I want a woman who is more traditional or has more traditional values. I don't even think that that exists, because you'll see what I mean in a second. Okay, back to this column. Attraction is your overall being, who you are, okay? So you think that talking to her will make her like you. And it doesn't, okay? Meanwhile, she had her eyes on somebody else the whole time. And if you're trying to talk to her and win her over verbally so she likes you, you're almost doing yourself a disservice to your own sexual market value and your own status. So the other guy that she's interested in, he didn't have to do anything except exist. His overall existence with his overall being and aura and who he is and how God made him, that was good enough without doing anything. So you want to spend 100% of your time on you, okay? So when you do say hello, so when you do say something, she likes you and finds you attractive. So this is what I mean, okay? A guy who she thinks is unattractive, that guy can say anything or do anything that he wants, okay? He can try to say anything, he can try to be a certain way, but he's not going to get very far because she's not attracted to him. So this is what I'm telling you. You need to spend 100% of your time on you. You need to spend 100% of your time crafting your own character and your own archetype with who you are. Okay, so now shifting things over to this column, we have to actually look at this in reverse. So if a woman tries talking to you and let's say you're not attracted to her, okay, there is nothing that she can say or nothing that she can do to change your mind because you're not into her that way. She's not your type. Well, meanwhile, let's look at the reverse. Meanwhile, the swimsuit model, okay, or let's say the runway supermodel that you are attracted to, she could basically say anything, okay, and it wouldn't matter because you like her. So she could say or do anything, and some of the things that she would say might not even be, like anything great, but let's say you just really like her because you're attracted to her. That's what I'm talking about. So men who try to create attraction, this part is going to sting. Like, this part's going to sting for a lot of you because I genuinely believe a lot of guys are in this situation. Men who try to create attraction are coping because they lack the discipline to do these 3 things that I'm about to tell you. This is really powerful, so I'm going to read this again. Men who try to create attraction with women are coping because deep down they lack discipline to do these 3 things. The first thing that they lack discipline to do is they lack discipline to compete. Okay? So when I say compete, you have to understand this. In a nutshell, the dating game is basically a competition because it's you against all of the other dudes out there who would also like to take her out on the date. So that means you're going to have to put in work and self-improvement in certain areas that lead to attraction, okay? Now, the first thing that these men struggle to do is compete. The second thing that they struggle to do is contend. If you're a true contender, what that says is, hey, I have done the work as a man to make myself into who I am, or I was blessed genetically and was born, a certain way where I'm very attractive by default. Whatever the case may be, you're going to contend in the dating game and you're going to say, hey, out of all the other men who she could be on the date with, I believe that I'm good enough, or I believe that I am better, or I'm a better fit because I know who I am. So men, okay, who try to create attraction are coping because they lack discipline to do these 3 things. Compete, contend, okay, and improve. So if you lack these 3 things, the ability to have desire to compete, contend, and improve, you have to understand that your internal masculinity is lacking. And she can feel that. If you put a man in front of a woman who is very disciplined, you're going to notice that he is able to, shift the energy in the room, and she's going to probably just naturally respect him more because she can tell that he is the type of man who puts in work in certain areas. So let's go over this one more time. You have to understand this. Women optimize hypergamy for what's missing because women do not need men today to provide for them or resources or security for the long term with resources. And why would that be? Because obviously they have their own jobs, their own houses, and their own money. So what that means, okay, is you have to realize what they actually are optimizing for, which is attractive men. So the reason why a lot of them will say things like, I like being independent or I want to be independent is because the thing is they want to be independent of needing a man. So what that means is they want to be independent, okay, from having to be with a man that they find unattractive just for potential long-term resources. They would much rather have a situation where they have access to attractive men that they genuinely want. And I understand that, I get it. So the older I get, I see things from different perspectives. So when I hear, a lot of guys say what happened to traditional values and all this? Here's what I'm starting to see. There really is no such thing as a traditional woman because how things were back in the day was just different, right? So I don't really know exact time frames and history and all this, but let's say women from 50 to 100 years ago, I don't think that they were any more traditional than women today, okay? The environment was just different. Like, let's be real. If my great-great-grandma would have had a smartphone and would have had access to social media, I'm sure that she probably would not have chose my great-great-grandpa either, okay? So these women probably were with the men that they were with, okay, for security and resources, okay, but not because they genuinely were attracted to him. So you have to realize the environment that you are in today is different. So every single guy out there trying to create attraction, what you really need to be doing is saying, how can I have more sex appeal? And how can I maximize my genetics of who I am? So that way I bring my best self forward at all times. And if you do that, you're going to be chosen by more women because you're a far better option than the men that they currently have access to. Okay? Now, this is like a prerequisite video that I just made right now. So that way you have a smoother introduction when I show you the language of women. Okay, so when you come into my community, right now we have over 1,200 guys inside of this. I've been showing them a process that I call the language of women. To build that entire program took me months. Okay, it's like my life's work when it comes to my knowledge and all of the things that I've done. And what happens in this process is I show you an exact step-by-step process when it comes to front-end game, which is how to act and how to operate when you first meet the woman. Then I show you middle game or mid game, okay, which is how to act and carry yourself on the first 1 to 3 dates. And then back end game, which is how to maintain a stable relationship with that woman that you have desire for. Well, guess what makes that whole process easier? What makes the whole process easier so that way you have the best, most optimized results is understanding this and how to improve yourself to make yourself the most attractive version of yourself possible. So I invite you into that community. I invite you into that process because that is truly my life's work. Hit the like button, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.